So the other part of it is when they start talking. When I say they start talking, you start asking, okay, who's running the government? Well, they have a select set of people that run the government. It's not who you see always on camera. So you have your representatives, you have your Congress, you have your Senate. They don't always make decisions for people. When it comes down to it, everyone inside with what I call territory, because these people do not have an education in government or any type of education in law, to where even your bankers and M&T and celebrities are all ganged up now. And they technically, if you don't do what they tell you to do, you have a few options with them. They either take you out and kill you, or they take you out and shoot you, or they'll go after your family and whatnot. Now, this isn't a form of government. This is a form of just a civilian uprising. Now, Grant, there's a better way to do a civilian uprising, and that's to overflood every government where they came from, whether it be Israel, would be Saudi Arabia, and to just leave. They were told to do this back in 1980 to get the numbers of the United States down below 350,000 to 250,000 people, and just to live over in another country, because what they're going to get over there is better than what you got here. Now, as far as Europe had a series of what they called a crisis, and when I say crisis, was U.S. people, military, coming over here who have been out of the military over 20, 30 years and saying, you either do this or I'm going to put a bullet in your head. They already know they're screwed as far as killing someone. They know they're not going to be coming back for a period of time, and that they don't care. So that's where, when you see that post I have, that I went from martial law, which there is no such word as martial law. There's no such law as martial law. That it went from a survival mode here to just outright, you cross into on my property, I'm gonna get a gun, and tell you to leave. If you don't leave and you pull a gun out and you fire a round off, I'm gonna shoot you. That's how it is inside the United States. As far as the military is always gone. There is no military that is here doing what they're supposed to do. That's why they're not making hardly anything as far as a year. As far as what pertains to the government, how our people had a civil war. Well, one, be lucky you have guns and rifles, because that's the first thing that they wanted to take away. And that wasn't Europe, that was the United States. The second thing was to put you in a detention, in the sense of where my detentions are different. You do a crime up until a certain criminal act, and then it goes to a prison. You actually work inside government facilities. You still make money, it's just not as much as you want to make. As far as like Muncie prison, I'll pick on that prison. Not everyone in there is in jail for the purpose of actually doing a crime. And that some people don't understand what I'm saying. The law states that you can actually put yourself into detention or a prison if you have nowhere to go, and no shelter wants to won't accept you as far as going in. As far as making a war with a single person, they've done this for over 35 years, and it just gets monotonous. As far as every country, you can do what I'm doing, and you will not get a response from these people, from Canada, from Europe, or nothing. This tells me one of two things. They're either disconnected from the internet, or they're no longer receiving online transactions as far as citizenship. So this means that the United States is putting fake websites up so that these places respond. Are they raping, pillaging, and sodomizing and killing people. Yes, they're doing this every day in California, every day in NYC, every day in Florida, every day in Texas, every day in Louisiana. And they'll take your daughter and they'll outright rape her, in the sense of their terminology of what rape is. They don't care. What are you going to do? I got 20,000 people. They got 5,000 people. They have 10,000 people. Now, right now, the European government, the Canadian government, the South American government, or the South Canada government, I should say, is getting backfired on big time. It's backfiring on you. Because of the fact that this is included in Europe in a certain way, that they couldn't get the documentations, and none of those documentations can be duplicated legally. They cannot be duplicated. It doesn't matter if the guy dies and passes away, because it's written in there that the law still will extend beyond death. As far as Sudan, as far as Syria and whatnot, it's tended to believe that these events happened back in 1980, where the United States surrounded a city, starved it so badly that people were literally dying. They didn't care. Some say that's a European problem. No, it's not a European problem. When the fact of it was they're supposed to allow food and clothing and that stuff in, but they weren't allowed to let their traffic from their companies come out, which pretty much puts their industry in a hurt where they're not making money. And that's where all this comes in. Either money circulates or it doesn't go anywhere. And exactly what happened. Is the money went elsewhere but wasn't circulating. One thing is every city in the world must grow its own food. Every territory must grow its own food, in the sense to keep cost efficiency down. As far as the seed vault, as they say, you can't keep pulling seeds out on a yearly basis and just throwing them around. That seed vault is 5 to 10 years set, that you won't get no seed unless you're making seed. And it's not freaking hard to make seed, to let a plant keep growing until it seeds itself. And what it looks like is, on some of them, don't look like a seed. Then you dry that out and make a seed out of it. So, are you at war inside the U.S.? As far as the war in Syria, the major war that's happening here is worse than what's happening overseas. And that's what people over there don't get. Why aren't they waking up? Why aren't they doing this or that? As far as the Christian ministry, and let's talk a little bit about this, it failed. People just show up for the fact that it's free food. It's like a backdoor outing barbecue. They don't give a shit about the religion. They'll dump it as soon as you leave. And they're also, if you come at them, they'll come at you. You want to come at them in a group of 5,000, they'll come at you in a group of 10,000. Where the overturn on that was pretty much to make people start standing up for themselves. And that happened. Let's get back into what other people call a war. The war hasn't stopped since the world wars. It dimmed down some, but it hasn't stopped. It went to a private level. And that's a dangerous war. That means that if it went to a private level, that means the United States is no more under martial law. It's under a fact of war, a de facto a war. And it's not de facto as it is just outright, you're in a freaking war. It's not because any country came at the United States in the sense of military or missiles or guns. They came at the United States saying, you need to change all this that you're doing. One, you're already a criminal. Two, everything you break in as far as the law is being written down. We can see your files. We can see the internet. We have control of your satellites. We have control of your timed up missiles and everything else. What are you going to do? You're just going to keep throwing people in prison? Thank you. You fed them. They got a place to stay. Will it do anything for you? Every prison in the world is has turned from a manual prison to an electronic prison planned. That way they can just open the cells up and let them out. As far as the number of people and whatnot in the prison, some are good, some are bad, but in the middle of a war, you're all considered one-sided. You're either on the prisoner side or you're on the side of doing what a criminal's telling you to do. And I'm not talking about my aggravated assault at this point, even though I have one, which has actually been overwritten in here as being the fact of someone being terrorized and was erased in European records, but still exists. As far as DUIs that get thrown out the door, there are no DUIs or DWIs in Europe. That law does not exist. That regulation does not exist. It does exist in one way. The officer who signed it, you got a written warning as well as a written for not doing your job, not protecting and serving a person. You don't sit there and throw them in prison. You may hold them up in a holding cell, but you definitely don't throw them in prison. Or take them to your fake-ass courts, which no one wants to listen to. Anyway, I'll make another one.